Hello everyone, my name is Alex. I hope you still have energy before the coffee break. It's not gonna take too long. So let's see a couple of other cool things that you can do in Oxygen's author mode. So for today's agenda, we're gonna talk about document templates and how you can customize them. I hope my colleagues raised your interest regarding phone controls because you're about to get another dose, this time about custom phone controls. And we also see how you can change the document through JavaScript and xQuery update actions. Okay. So guided authoring. We've talked about this concept here at Prague before in the previous years. It means that a writer working on a document needs guidance along its journey that begins with the creation of that document up until to the moment when that document gets published. And the journey doesn't end there actually, but we will talk about that in the next presentations. And we are aware of this. And over the years, we've tried to implement different mechanisms to help the writer. And for once, we focused on fixing errors through things like Schematron business rules or Schematron quick fixes support. But it is always easier and better to prevent than to fix an error. So we didn't neglected this prevention phase. And how we do that? Well, through things like inline actions that you've seen in George's presentations just before that, or through contextual hints. He also presented that with. And now we will focus on the document creation. So the journey begins when you create a document. And many times you create a document by using a template. If you need a procedure, you'll use a certain template. If you want to create a topic of some sort, you'll use another template. So it all begins with a template. So it is equally important that the user knows what you expect of him when he begins writing in that template. So the conclusion is that you need hints in those templates. And a particular important case are those empty elements that you have in the template. So it's quite hard for the user to know what exactly it should put in those empty elements. And the good thing is that you can specify such hints for empty elements. It's not something new in Oxygen. We've had it for years. And you do that through a CSS rule like this one. So you have the selector for the title. I say here through this custom CSS property that we have, it's called Oxy placeholder content. We give a hint, and that hint will be presented for that empty element. Right. So I'm not going to show you an example because George had a few. But this approach also has a few disadvantages in case of templates. So the first one would be that you need an additional CSS together with a template. So for a procedure, I might need certain hints for others. The second disadvantage is that it may be difficult sometimes to specify context-sensitive messages. So for example, here I have two paragraphs, and they're they're the same, but I want different messages. A message for the first one, a short introduction, and another that contains the details. So through a CSS selector alone, I cannot differentiate between these two elements, right? So using just a CSS rule, it's not enough. So we thought about a solution to these issues, and the best place to put these hints would be directly in the template, in those elements. And for that, XML processing instructions are a great opportunity. So what we are preparing for version 19 is to allow you to put these hints directly in the elements, in the template. So such a processing instruction will have a predefined name, Oxy placeholder, and you will give it the hint in sort of an attribute form. So I can say for this is the first title, and here is the second title, and so on. So let's see how this looks in Oxygen's author mode. So this is a template, and it has these processing instructions like I've shown you. And in the author mode, they are rendered. And once I give a title here, my first title, maybe a short description, and if we go to the text mode, you'll notice that these processing instructions will be removed. So we don't want to keep them in your documents. They're intended just for the template, for the first phase. So we'll get rid of them afterwards. Right.
What if you remove the title? Does the processing instruction cover?
If you move that title.
If you remove it, you erase
Oh yes, of course. It will be gone, right?
it will be gone. It will
Yes,
not connect.
of course.
So if you undo, you can still see the
Yes.
or if you delete during this session? Or
So let's say this short description. So if I remove it in the text mode, the short description is gone. But if I undo it, then it's going to be.
But if you delete the content,
You just use backspace.
if you type something and delete, do you still have the placeholder?
Yes, of course. Right. So if you type and I press undo, right? I undo the.
Backspace.
Oh, backspace. Okay. Like this, right? You made me nervous there.
So it's
And-
preserved during the session.
Yeah, that's important.
But,
Yes.
but if you just now remove the first paragraph completely, then there will be the processing instruction. Please enter the second paragraph.
Yes.
Will still be there.
Yes. Yes. It will be there.
This will become the first paragraph actually.
Oh. Well, maybe my example wasn't.
And Alex will show next.
Well.
This is awesome. This is really great.
But the next thing you can control what you said,
Okay.
but with another processing instruction, and Alex, I will not spoil that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but this is a template, so it is intended.
It is intended to put this, right? So.
So it's a feature, it's not a bug, it still says it's.
Well, the good thing is that it's work in progress. So if you have a suggestion, that now it's the proper time to give them. Okay. You can also control a bit the styling for these hints, if you so desire. So this placeholder will be converted. So we'll keep them as a custom pseudo class with this name Oxy placeholder. So what this means is that you can write CSS rules to control the styling for an element with a placeholder on it. So I'll do just that. So in the CSS, for example, I'll say that if something has a placeholder and it's empty, it should put a border and a padding around it. So let's return here. And maybe now they're more into your face, so you'll see them,
You
and
could mark the required things.
or maybe use a different foreground color or something. So if you don't like this bland styling that we have by default. Okay. So again, a bit about phone controls. So we've introduced the phone controls 3 or 4 years ago to help with some specific task, inserting certain content. And we have a lot of built-in phone controls like text fields and combo boxes. To use them in the CSS on the content property, you have to use these predefined extension functions. We have one such function for each phone controls. And we also have the possibility to create custom ones. So if these built-in phone controls are not enough, you can always create custom ones. And a lot of our users have implemented such custom phone controls. But downside, let's call it that, is that you need to use our Java-based API to create these custom phone controls. And some of our users are not that familiar with the Java programming languages. So what I want to propose you now, it's a custom phone control in which you will mainly use HTML and JavaScript. And underneath it, it will have a web browser that will render that JavaFX. So first, let me show it to you in action, and afterwards I'll go into the details. So my sample is a travel guide. It presents a number of points of interest from the Greek island of Santorini. And each point of interest has an address. And what I can do now in the author mode is, if I click this little icon here, a map is gonna open. So this is a Google map, and I'll be able to see the location, and I can also change the location. So if I move the marker here, or in another place, you see here that the address changes on the bottom. So let me do it again, like this. And also, my address is stored as attributes with latitude and longitude. So again, changing this address will update these attributes. Not impressed? Tough audience. So this is actually Oxygen's author mode. Okay, so how I did that is through a custom phone control that has a Java part. And in this Java part, I am using a web browser. I'm using Oxygen phone controls API to be able to put that phone control there. And I also have a JavaScript to Java bridge. That's how my JavaScript will be able to modify the document in the author mode. And what's important is that it has an HTML part and a JavaScript part that can, like I said, update the document. And again, what's important is that the Java part can stay the same, so you have the same framework. And just by working on the HTML and the JavaScript, you can theoretically create different form controls. So you won't have to touch the Java part at all. So I'll also show you the JavaScript just to have an idea of what's going on. So the JavaScript will just create a Google Map object, and when a marker changes here, so when a marker changes the latitude and the longitude, we'll use this bridge object. So this is a predefined global variable in this JavaScript, and it is binded to a Java implementation. And through this bridge, I can set an attribute, the latitude attribute in my case, to a given value on the current element.
So it's two-way.
Yes, you can also do it. Yes, it's a two-way communication. Yes. If you want to. If you print alerts, for example, in this JavaScript, you'll see it in the console, so that's a way of debugging your JavaScript if something goes wrong. Right. Here again, I'm using this bridge to get the current value for the latitude and the longitude attribute. And if we take a look at the Java code, so there's for each of these functions, get attribute, set attribute, there is an implementation in this bridge. So this proof of concept that I made, it's available on GitHub. So if you're interested in having a look, if you want to contribute, that will also be great. So perhaps we can build this bridge, this layer of interaction, make everything that the Oxygen API provides, make it available in the JavaScript as well, and have this bridge available, and then everyone could just use HTML and JavaScript and build phone controls. And also, if you create other type of plugins, bear in mind that now you can use the JavaFX browser and just do your interfaces with HTML. Even the interaction, you can do it with JavaScript, right? So you won't have to touch the Java layer as much. So we just have a couple of more minutes standing between you and your coffee. Okay, this is how. So after you install, if you want, you can install this. It is this plugin. I also uploaded an add-on, so you just use the Oxygen's add-on support to automatically install it, and afterwards you bind it from the CSS like this, so just through a property. Right. So to change things in Oxygen's author mode, you create actions, and these actions are just a configuration in which you give an expat expression to identify the context, and you use some primitive operations that we provide, like insert XML content or change attribute and so on. So it's very easy to create these actions, but at some point these actions won't be enough. And what you can do then is, again, use our Java API to create a custom operation, or what I'm proposing right now. So for example, the challenge is to set an attribute on multiple elements. And why is that a challenge? Because the default operation that we have to change an attribute, the change attribute operation, operates on a single element. So it's not enough. So what I did, so in my sample, I can select several points of interest, and if I press this action here on the toolbar, they're going to be marked as important. So there's an attribute that appears here on them. And how is that done? Is through an xquery update script. So I have a variable in which the selected element are passed to the script. The context or the point is also set to the element that contains the caret. And after that, I create a script to take all the point of interests and set the importance attribute. One more thing, another use case. So let's say the challenge is that I want to copy the address of a point of interest, and the address is in this form, so it's an an element with two attributes, latitude and longitude, a human readable address here, it's in the text. But I want to copy it as this, so in this format. Don't ask me why, for demonstration purposes. So again, using the built-in operations that we provide, this is not possible, but I can do it through a JavaScript operation. So again, in the travel guide, if I press this action here, so like this, and I go in the text mode, the address was copied in this form. And how it was done is through a JavaScript function like this. So this JavaScript will have access to our entire API through the author access variable, and I can use it to get the current node, to get the latitude and the longitude from its attribute, build the text that I want to copy, and after that I access the system clipboard. This is a bit of Rhino magic, the way to jump from JavaScript to Java to create objects and so on. But it made it possible, so that's great. So thank you very much. Questions?
Yeah, this is impressive.
Thank you.
But we've been talking while you were talking, and we were thinking about, couldn't you do it with XSLT and Saxon.js, or as Nico says, with Xforms?
So that you have a data model which you can keep synchronized. And then you don't use the JavaScript actions, but you actually use the data model.
Let's keep in touch and talk, you know. So this was the web browser. It's based on WebKit. We should give it a try. I'm not sure how compatible Saxon.js would be with it. I imagine Michael K tests it with Chrome and Firefox and all the giant browsers.
I
But
haven't found a platform where it didn't work yet.
sorry?
I haven't found a normal platform where it didn't work.
Oh,
Yes.
then there's
It worked
hope.
on my Ubuntu tablet.
Then there's hope for it. We should see what this brings. So
About that issue, I think we support also, we have support to make some things editable or locked down. So you can't delete
that is something that we are thinking about. We want to do it, didn't do it yet. That's why it didn't appear in my slides. But we also want to have processing instruction, let's say oxy editable, and make it false, for example. So you mark big structure as being read-only and maybe just a small descendant as being editable. So if you have use cases for this, it would be great to get in touch and grab that feedback, because it will drive the implementation.
So this support for editable for post and implemented also with the CSS.
Of course.
So if you have a CSS that matches on specific processing instructions, then implement the editable CSS property to control what's editable. But Alex wants
To make the template self-containing.
support in Oxygen rather than requiring an additional CSS. If you add that CSS, let's say, to the data framework or to the notebook framework or to your own vocabulary, then you can use that.
Yeah.
So if there are no more questions, thank you for your attention, and please enjoy your coffee. We'll see you afterwards.